Everybody, I'm Mike Glassman with American Power Conversion. Today we're going to go over our physical security solutions. We bought a company called NetBots in late last year, around October, November. I was planning on having a demo for you guys. They shipped me the wrong rack, so we don't have a live demo. The good news is I just remembered that we actually have a demo website where we can actually show you what the appliance looks like and how it behaves and look at someone's environment, the NetBots demo lab. So we'll get to do that, maybe talk a little bit about cooling. A couple of you asked me cooling questions, so I'm assuming that's still a pretty hot, well, no pun intended, topic. So basically, a lot of the things that we've been talking about today from a security perspective have been about the network and securing the network. But we view there being this area of security that also needs to be paid attention to, and that would be the physical security, everything in the physical layer. And APC sees itself as a physical layer company. So, what we see our products doing is bridging that gap between physical security and IT security. We do that using the NetBots appliance solution. So, a little bit about what's going on in our environment. Rising densities, heat's becoming an issue, and you need to be aware of the risk to your IT assets, not only from physical sabotage, but from heat, water, smoke, or any of those other types of issues. So, and we are going to have a little demo. So the areas where we see risk are environmental, human error, theft, and of course your favorite, sabotage. Anyone encounter any of these problems in their environment? Okay. So basically, NetBots the APC has a solution around this NetBots product where it's a camera and pod solution where you can actually have the camera go and alert you based on, or rather you can get alerts from the system based on events. So for instance, gets too hot in the room, you want to get an alert, right? Someone opens the door to the server room, someone opens the door to a rack, or maybe even we've got a camera focusing on this whole room, but we're only interested in what happens if I walk by this area right here. So what the NetBots solution does is it pretty much goes and has the camera there all the time, alerts you based on the event, and then you can go back and look and see what might have happened. So the solution comes in a few different models, the high end being the 500. I've got specs sheets. I'm not the NetBots expert, but the number of devices that you can put on there and the types of contacts for measurements are pretty much limitless. Any type of dry contact sensor would work on this. The camera lenses are pretty straightforward, generic camera lenses, so you can change out the camera lenses to the appropriate type. There's also a centralized appliance to aggregate or manage the data from NetBots all across a network environment, LAN, WAN. So centralizing the solution. Also manage all the APC legacy or APC devices, and the APC infrastructure manager can now also manage the NetBots devices. So that's a little bit about what the architecture looks like. You can see the wall bots, and really that's just whether we put it in a rack mount kit or a wall kit, whether we call it a NetBots or a wall bots. You can see that we have all the different types of sensors out there and how they communicate. You can either talk directly to the NetBots or communicate back to the central server if you're aggregating or managing a lot of these devices. Of course, it wouldn't be fun if you couldn't look at it through your PDA. So even on this link I'm going to show you on when I do the live demo, you can pretty much go and if you can get into the website, you can go and view what happened on your PDA. So that's it for the NetBots presentation stuff. I'm going to show you guys what this thing looks like real quickly. This is at the NetBots facility in Austin, Texas, at our headquarters. And basically, what you're seeing is a picture of the copy center. But we could have this set up so that if someone touched the copier or if the temperature changed, you'd get an alert. From an alerting perspective, we don't just get it on temperature change or humidity, but it can be rate of change. So gradual change might not be bad, but a quick spike in temperature of 10 degrees might be something you do want to manage. This comes in real handy. The other day we had to try and figure out whether someone's chiller tower for their air conditioning was they wanted to know when the pumps go bad. So how do you check that? We'll check based on rate of change. How quickly does the room temperature change? I don't know why my screen keeps popping like this, but just to give you guys a flavor for the type of things that you can do over here, the system also has a speakers type of setup where you can, and we're putting in some integration where you can actually use it to call out something like fire alert. So let me see if I can. I don't have access to the full system to actually be able to make changes and show you the rate of change, just the camera stuff right now. Any questions on the NetBot stuff?
Is it all web-based administration?
Yes, it is. There's two ways. I believe there's two ways to manage it. One's web-based, and then there's a client that you can do it as well with.
I noticed your rack box. So does that have a camera built into it, just in the rack mount, or?
Yeah. So the appliance, we can probably drill back into that one. So the appliance pretty much can go in a wall mount, because if you wanted to look at an IT room, you'd probably want to mount it on a wall and look down on it. But we also have a mounting kit where you can mount it in the rack, looking into the rack.
Oh, cool.
So that's the rack. The NetBots version. The WallBots is the other one. You can see it on the wall, and then the RackBots is with the rack mount. It's basically a rack mount kit. Any other questions on the NetBot stuff? I was going to drill. I got a couple more minutes, so I was going to drill into a little bit of power and cooling type of stuff. It seemed that cooling was the biggest question I got in the other room. I do have glossies and paperwork on the NetBot stuff if you're interested, so just feel free to go and grab some. I'll leave that stuff behind. I'm probably going to stay here for till about 2:30 at the latest. We can get through about 60 slides in about the next 10 minutes. This is not what we're going to be talking about. This is what I would consider a legacy style UPS. If you opened up a cabinet, you'd find something equivalent to car batteries, and ours is kind of a modular pay-as-you-grow approach. A little bit about APC revenues. I don't doubt anyone's interested in that. Our basic go-to-market strategy is everything physical layer. So the NetBots acquisition fits real well within the company's go-to-market strategy of letting you manage your physical environment, be it power, be it cooling, be it racks, and centralizing that management platform. So our portfolio of products is pretty much end-to-end physical layer, where your equipment lives and breathes. And our priority is to bring a standards-based approach to physical layer. In other words, we'll go into this a little bit more. Today, if you're not going with APC, the way a data center is built, it's pretty much custom from the ground up. So the business case behind that is anyone here designing their car custom, or do you go to the car dealership and tell them what options you want in it? And there's some benefits in standardizing. You'll eliminate one-time engineering and the cost associated with it. Lower the time to build the solution, have something that's tested and proven, as opposed to relying on contractors and consulting engineers to reinvent the wheel every single time. So, what do we think we can do by having a modular, redundant approach is basically raise the reliability of the equipment, lower the mean time to recovery, reduce human error significantly. So our approach is an integrated solution of rack, power, cooling, and it comes in several different sizes, from upper left, which would be your closet, all the way down to lower right, which would be a fairly large data center. And the heart of that, or one of the hearts of that, would be the UPS design. So our UPS design is similar to buying a large Cisco switch or a RAID array, where it's redundant hot swappable modules. So from the top down, it's redundant supervisor modules, redundant power modules, and then N+1 type of configuration. So if you lose a power module, you're still up and running on conditioned power. You just need to hot swap it and replace it. There's some challenges that we see that companies are facing, or in the physical environment, and they're really rapid changes in IT technology, high density, operating costs, and increasing availability expectations. And we think that by delivering a scalable solution with a pay-as-you-grow model, that you can eliminate a lot of those problems. So. We're going to jump into cooling real quick with our hot aisle containment solution, which basically, to me, this is the heart of our integration of our modular approach. We basically take our air conditioner, put it in row as close to the possible as the heat source, put the racks and the UPS all in a contained solution. By doing that, it's the kind of thing you can drop in for disaster recovery or a second location. And again, there's no need to design anything. The only thing this needs is it's chilled water feed for cooling and it's power feed for power. And you could drop it in a room like this, and you've pretty much got a ready-to-go data center. So power distribution, again, the heart of what we like to do is give better tools for management to our customers. So our rack mount power PDUs come in two flavors that would interest you. A metered one where you can balance your power by phases, and even more importantly, a switched one, so that if you have a hung device, you can remotely go in, log into your VPN, log into the power strip or PDU, and power cycle a server that might be hung. Just turn off those specific receptacles for that piece of equipment. We've done a lot of work with regard to cooling, and the biggest challenge that we're seeing is the increasing heat densities. So, the best way to solve that is make sure you're setting up your rooms in a hot aisle, cold aisle configuration, where you're ducting your cold supply to the fronts and evacuating the heat from the rears. If you've got any racks, when you've got problems, the first place I'd look is blanking panels. If you don't have blanking panels and you've got a rack set up without blanking panels, the cold air can escape right from the front to the rear. It's easier to pass through a blank area of a rack than it is to pass through a piece of server equipment. So blanking panels are key. Eliminating the heat, trapping the heat, and getting it back to the air conditioner is probably the best solution. So what you want to do is eliminate air mixing and get the hottest possible air to your air conditioner. So how do we do that? Well, we look at point solutions that don't fit into the rest of the world, like Cisco switches that cool side to side, and we have a solution that will take that hot air and push it to the back. If you have issues, that's that solution in the middle. The solution on the far right deals with raised floor and temperature gradients. If you have a temperature gradient where you're getting cold air to the bottom of your rack but not to the top, we'll blow a channel of cold air up the front. And then the ARU is on the far left is our air removal unit. The basic piece of math you want to walk away with is that it takes about 160 CFM of airflow to cool 1 kilowatt. So, if we can increase the amount of air passing through the servers or passing through the rack, we can improve your cooling performance. So we've got these rear doors that are the kind of thing that are blade ready. You'd add to an existing rack that could deliver anywhere between 1,200 and 2,400 CFM, depending on the model, and we could duct that right back up to the hot air return. So we don't believe in putting fans at the top of the rack because the equipment cools front to back. We believe in taking that air and dumping it right back into the air conditioner. So, taking it to the next level, we've got this nice truck for $1.5 million. If any guys ready for a data center on demand with generator, cooling, and conditioned power. So I'll apologize for not having the demo for you guys. I was really hoping to be able to show you the NetBot stuff, but I've got some product literature. I've got a systems engineer that's a NetBots expert that loves to talk about this stuff. We can make him available if you guys have any questions or if you think this would solve any of your problems. Any questions? Okay.
not about that, but I was curious whether APC had done any work towards making the DC server room a reality.
Well, it's tough. I've been doing this for a year and a half, and I've had one customer ask me about DC in that time frame. And we have a fairly small set of DC offerings, but we have it. But the issue is this. When you're running your piece of IT equipment and you're putting it on a UPS, and it's a larger UPS, your UPS converts from AC to DC, from DC back to AC, then it goes into a power supply in the server, which converts it back to DC again. It's very inefficient, and it generates additional heat. So if you could run it all on DC, that would be great. The downside, though, is that to run it on DC, you need to basically have everything fused. It's not like it's an AC circuit and you plug it in. It's a DC bus. There's fuses between each bus or device. So it's just not commonplace. The only place you really see a lot of that is in a telco type of environment. And they have a certification they call NEBS, and it's a certification that means a lot for your rack bracing and your power, and they run at negative 48 volt. But we have offerings in that space. Just there's not demand for it to make us increase and add to that offerings. I hope I answered that. Any other questions? Does anyone not throw the card in, because I'm about to raffle this off? If you want to get your card in here, I'm going to get this thing raffled off right now. Well, just rip off a piece of paper. You'll be the only one with one of those. Put your name on it. Here, I'll give you a card. You can put it on the card.
Yeah, even the ways.
Huh?
I was asking if there's no other questions.
No other questions?
No. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks. Right. Gotta dig out a can.
How's it going, everybody? This is off. Hello? Okay. Everybody can hear me? Okay, good. So, I'm here to talk a little bit about RFID. Technologies, mostly on the technologies. Security is, I'm going to talk a little bit about security, of course, too. But the main thing is RFID. Many people talked about RFID already. There are some really good presentations around you can find on the internet from other conferences and stuff. What I'm going to focus is on the Wi-Fi tags, which is a kind of a new technology that is being used. So again, I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of RFID, if you're not familiar with that. Technologies, the types of RFID technologies that exist today. Try to cover more the Wi-Fi tags, how they work, the first and second generation that are out there. And then privacy and security for both, for the older or the legacy stuff and the newer stuff that is out. A little bit about me. I'm mostly a networking guy, been working with networks forever. Really enjoy the talk from NO because I used to work with MPLS and all that stuff. Then being involved with security since 95, 96. Then started working with Wi-Fi networks. Then security is there. Had to learn on the hard way or anyway. And spoke at some conferences. I work for Aruba Networks, and I'm the incident manager for the incident response team. and helped build the networks at Black Hat, DEF CON, CCC in Germany, and a few others, the wireless network, I mean. So let's get to it. RFID, so what is it? It stands for radio frequency identification, meaning RF, radio frequency, is waves on the air, and identification is to identify stuff with that. It is derived from, or the first type of RFID that it is really not RFID, but on the radar systems they started using identification based on aircrafts. So to identify if a plane was a friend or a foe. In 1945, the Soviet government, they used a covert listening device, which is not an RFID tag by any means, but it works in a similar way. So people like to reference that as well as some sort of part of the history of RFID. The first commercial use of it was in 1976, and anybody knows what product used that? Nobody? Chewing gum, juicy fruit chewing gum. That was the first RFID application, commercial. The way that RFID kind of works, so if you're not familiar to it, nowadays almost everybody is, but the easiest way if you're not familiar to it, to kind of relate to what it is the anti-theft tags that you have when you buy anything on a store. The difference is that tag, the anti-theft tags, what they have is a 0 or 1. You paid for it or you didn't pay for it. So when you go through the register, it says you paid for it, so it changes it flips that bit. When you walk through the door, there's the sensor. If you paid, it doesn't go off. If you didn't pay, of course, it's going to go off. The difference from RFID is that RFID stores much more information than 1 bit. I don't remember now the number of bits. I think it's about 20 bits or something like that. Mostly used today as inventory control. Some people say it could be or it will one day be a barcode replacement, but I think it's really hard at this point, but you never know. But the idea is that for a barcode reader, you need the reader has to see the barcode, of course. You need line of sight. For RFID, no. And more in the application side, why do you need that? Why do you want that? For large stores and stuff like that, is to know where products are. So if you, with a reader, you can, it's inventory control, to know where the stuff is. And of course, you can, since you have more information on the tag, you can know not only what product it is, but expiration dates and stuff like that. So it makes it easier for tracking. So the whole point of RFID is tracking and identifying stuff. So on the RFID technology, what it is there? You have the tags, also known as transponders, that can be active, semi-active, or passive. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a few slides. The frequencies used is the low frequency, high frequency, and ultra high frequency, and microwave, and some are GPS. So some RFIDs today, some of them they're only GPS, or they mix some sort of legacy or Wi-Fi with GPS. So cars and stuff can be tracked by GPS. You also have the readers or transceivers. That's what gets the information from the tag. And you have the back-end systems, which are going to correlate the information collected and do whatever they need to with that. Some stuff about the tags. Most of the tags that are out there that are not read-only, they support up to 1,000 write cycles. That means you can reuse it. because of security, some of them have some sort of write protection, but not all of them. And each tag carries a unique identifier, which is, you probably heard about it, is the EPC. Now talking a little bit about the Wi-Fi tags. Most of them, the idea is ease of use, so they're programmed by the RTLS, which is the forgot what it is. Real-time location system or server. So the tag, we're going to talk in details how it works, but pretty much the tag associates with a Wi-Fi network. There's a backend RTLS that will configure the tag or change the configuration of the tag. That's most important too. And a little bit about security is that the newer tags that I didn't see one yet, but was reading on the internet, some cheap vendor, is to put another chip for crypto acceleration, because that's one of the overheads when you talk about security, about RFID, is encryption. So some myths about RFID. One of them I talked a little bit about it is it going to replace barcode, yes or no? I think the idea is yes, but let's see when it's going to happen. Here it is. They think RFID can store lots of information. So I said 20 bits. It's not 20 bits. 20 bits, I think, is the EPC. It's up to 2K of information. This is on one of the legacy tags. And then there is that big one that people say, okay, so the passive tags, they're supposed to be read from a short distance. From, let's say, from passports, they say a few centimeters to, I don't know, some sort of other tags that are for inventory and stuff where you have the scanners, the gates that have the sensors up to 2 meters. But there are like experiments that showed that, I think the record was at DEF CON last year, that they were able to activate a tag and read information from the tag from 69 feet or something like that. So here we start talking a little bit about the differences between the legacy RFID tags and the Wi-Fi ones. So the legacy ones, most of them are used as passive RFID tags. So how does it work? Why is it passive? Because it doesn't have power. It doesn't have a power supply, a power source. So it activates when it gets close to the reader. The reader activates the RFID tag. And once it activates that, then it can read information from it. Then the tag sends information to the reader. So back a little bit on what I was talking here, the short distance thing. So there are 2 ways also, right? What they did at DEF CON is that they had 2 antennas. One to activate the tag that was almost 70 feet away, and the other one to read the information that was sent by the tag. On the other hand, if you just want to eavesdrop, if you just want to see information, if somebody's going to get access control to their company and have the RFID badge, if you're, I don't know how many meters away or feet away, you can read the information. You cannot activate that tag if you don't need to activate the tag, because the transceiver is going to activate it for you. You just listen to the information. So back to this slide. So the usual RFID tags, they work at 915 megahertz. They're inexpensive somehow. They talk about 5 cents to 20 cents. That's what I saw looking on the internet. And so they have no batteries. And in theory, they are supposed to work in a very short range. Used in most products that probably you buy today, not most, but lots of them. The idea is, from large stores, is to have RFID in all the products. And probably you heard about or read about that some people are really concerned about privacy, and people don't like the idea of having that on the products that you buy. But in another way, many stores do that today with credit cards and customer loyalty cards and all that stuff. What else? So the idea is the reader has to be somehow close to the tag. So if there's a truck, the truck has to go through a gate, and the gate has many sensors. If you have a pallet, and the pallet has to have some sort of reader to see what it's carrying and send that to a back-end system. And then it could be even a combination of Wi-Fi and RFID, but not on the RFID side. There are people there, what they're doing now is that they have some sort of RFID reader on a pallet, and then via Wi-Fi sends information back to the network that sends to the back-end server to do whatever it has to do. Used in manufacturing and retail. I'm going to talk about applications or where it's being used, but also in passports, and the idea is to put in all kinds of stuff, clothes, money, everything. About the Wi-Fi tags, they work at the 2.4 gigahertz frequency, so they're just a Wi-Fi device. They are more expensive, way more expensive than a passive device. I have two of them here. This is the first generation one, a little bigger. If you want to track people or stuff, it's kind of big. And this is the second generation one, a little smaller. And I'm going to talk about the difference between first generation and second generation as well. So the cool thing about the Wi-Fi tags is that they use the existing infrastructure, the Wi-Fi infrastructure. So it's a good thing, and of course, for us in the security field, it's another concern or another one of those things to think about. How can I break this and stuff like that? I'm going to cover that in a little bit. It's being mostly used in hospitals, where they use the Wi-Fi network for many things already. They use it to use voice over IP with electronic badges or VoIP phones. So they're using their existing Wi-Fi infrastructure to track other equipment that they need, and also information about patients and stuff like that. And anything interesting there? No. I want to talk how they work. So this is pretty much how it works, the UHF RFID. Okay, so you have the reader on the right side there. The reader is going to get information is going to activate the tag. The tag is going to send its information through some sort of network that really doesn't matter. It's going to get to an ERP system or first to an RFID server that is going to understand that information, and then that's probably talking to some sort of ERP system that is actually going to do the inventory control and stuff like that. What else? One important part is that the chunks of information that is sent is really small. So there's a lot of transactions, but really tiny chunks of information. Possible problems with that is it's not guaranteed that you read a tag. How many times you went to a store, even with the anti-theft tags, that they do it and it doesn't work, or they know already that it really doesn't work that well, and they do it a few times just to make sure that the thing is not going to beep when you leave the store, right? So this is one of the problems. And the whole integration could be a problem, but I believe if somebody knows what they're doing, that shouldn't be a problem. Talking about the Wi-Fi tags, the way it works is just another device. So another important point is that you could have a tag talking to an RTLS server, or you can have any sort of Wi-Fi device running some sort of client. So you can have a laptop being tracked. You can have a PDA being tracked. You can have anything. And what type of information is sent to that RTLS server? Mostly nowadays, and okay, I'm going to jump to the other slide. Let me just see if there's something interesting here. So one thing with the Wi-Fi tags is, number one, it has a battery. So the battery life is kind of a concern. It's rechargeable and all that good stuff, but could be a problem. The other thing is range. It's just, as I said, it's just another Wi-Fi device. So wherever you have it can talk to an access point, it's going to work. Encryption could be a problem because most, and not all, but most of the existing Wi-Fi tags today, they support open system and WAP. And needless to say to you guys that it can be really not secure. But I found on the internet a vendor that is probably implementing 802.11i already, which is, I thought it was impressive. I was expecting to see some sort of WPA pre-shared key, but no, it's 802.11i. An interesting thing about the Wi-Fi tags, too, if you're into Wi-Fi, is that some of them, they support multiple SSIDs. And on the next slide, we're going to see matters is where it is. So the association, what matters is, let's put it like this, you can have two access points, supposing that the access points do not support more than one SSID. So you have two access points, but the endpoint is the same network, is the same path, or kind of, they both end up talking to the RTLS server in the same network. So it's cool that a tag can have multiple SSIDs because the way they calculate SSID, and you had some sort of network that has in one area one SSID and another area other SSID, that wouldn't work. So that's why if you have multiple SSIDs, it's better. And okay, can go to the next one. So now everything that I jumped before I'm going to talk about because it's easier here. It's the way it works. So this tag, for example, the first generation one, it sends information to the RTLS server. And who does all the calculations and stuff like that is the RTLS server. So it's sort of a pain in the beginning when you implement because you have to provision these tags on the RTLS server to know, say, this tag is Luis, for example. I'm carrying that. So the RTLS server knows that that's me. And also, the information that is being sent by the tag is, as I said, the BSSID information and our SSI, the signal strength and what access point it's talking to, or how or which ones, right? It can be more than one. And the tag has to associate to the network and then do all these, get all this information and then send to the server. Then the server is going to, based on that information, say, oh, he sent me information from that and that BSSID from those APs, so it must be around there. And around there part is then on the RSSI, on the signal strength from each one of the APs, it's going to understand where that tag is. The problem, kind of problem that there is one, battery life. Because, so you ask me, how often does the tag send information to the network, to the server? It can be configured. You can say it's a clock thing, it's a timer thing. Every X seconds or minutes, you send information to. You wake up, you associate and send information to the server. Other ways, and yeah, this is a good time to talk about that. It's not only a timer thing. It could be many things. Could be motion sensor. Some of these things, they have motion sensors. So if it's not moving, it's not going to send anything. But if it moves, it wakes up and does all the process that I talked about. But the overhead, nowadays the overhead is this. It has to associate to the network. Talking about the second generation, it's a little different. So the infrastructure is pretty much the same. The difference is the way that the tags work. So the tag is going to wake the same way that I described before, either by timer or motion sensor or any other sort of sensor. Depends on the tag, depends on the application. Could be temperature sensor, could be humidity sensor, could be anything. And once it wakes up, once it blinks, pretty much, sends no frames, the Wi-Fi infrastructure, that's going to learn information from, so it's a reverse thing. Now the Wi-Fi infrastructure is going to learn, and the Wi-Fi infrastructure is going to send information to the RTLS server. So it's based on the same information, BSSID and RSSI, but the APs are who send information to their RTLS server via some sort of API. Of course, the idea in the future is to integrate both of them. I don't see this as a reality as of now, but could be me. But the idea is to have some sort of access points that understand both of them, the passive and the UHF and the Wi-Fi, and gather information from all of those and then send to whatever server they have to send information to. And not only for tracking, but for the inventory control and stuff like that. By the way, the Wi-Fi tags are mostly used for tracking and identification, not for inventory and stuff like that. Some parks, I think some amusement park in Europe, I think they handle RFID tags to put in on the. Some other places, I'll get to it in a little bit. What else? And of course, the idea also for the future is to have some sort of Bluetooth integration as well. So maybe use Bluetooth as some sort of tracking also for devices that, of course, support Bluetooth. It's nice to have a marketing department. They make these beautiful things. And I don't have to worry about that. Anyways, here's an example on how use this technology to track luggage on airports. It's funny nowadays that airports, because of security, they're mostly concerned on not losing luggage because of security, because they really want to know who that belongs to and where it's going, and where it is, and stuff like that. And as of before, I don't think it was really that way. But the interesting thing about this slide, and that's why I put it here, is it mixes two types of technologies. One is the Wi-Fi one, of course, using the RSSI to calculate distance and all that stuff. And the other one is to use TDOA, which stands for time difference of arrival. So they're two totally different systems, and mixing both of them, and there's probably somewhere you must say that, but yeah, it does. It probably costs a lot to mix both. And of course, just using one of them could be good enough. But for example, RSSI is susceptible to not outdoor interference, but changes on the environment could really affect RSSI. And but that's the idea, is to track luggage real time on an airport. So if the guy wants to know if he's getting a connection and running from one terminal to another, if his luggage is going to make it or not, so he can start complaining about it before he gets to his destination. So there are lots of RFID applications out there, and I just listed whatever I remembered. But the interesting ones here are human and animal implants. I think in Germany, and Enno can correct me if I'm wrong, I think if you have a dog, the dog is, you have to tag the dog, so if it gets lost and stuff like that, it can be not only be found, know who it belongs to, but know other information about the dog as well. Car keys, this is owed. Badges, this is also owed. Luggage tracking. Not only, by the way, the luggage tracking thing is not a Wi-Fi RFID tag thing. It's not a new thing. Some airports, they have already the old tag, but it's not a real-time tracking of the thing. Passports. I think the U.S. is supposed to use RFID on passports this year or the following year. Last year, Netherlands, I think they started using that, but then security problems were raised, and I think they canceled it. Not sure. Customer loyalty cards, toll collection, everybody knows about it. Exxon Speed Pass to buy gas, and that's it. Libraries, and then when you list all this. And again, I said there are probably way much more than this. I just couldn't think of anything else. Just looking at a few of these, of course, you start thinking about security and privacy, mostly about security. So some things could be really broken if the system doesn't work. New RFID applications, some new stuff that I saw coming out is MP3 player that has some sort of smart card or RFID on that. So I think this is in Asia, so that means you can use a lot of public transportation. You have your MP3 player, you're going to go to the subway, you just pass your MP3 player through the thing, and that's it. You paid for the subway. Clothing, there are some brands that have a lot of RFID already. Vending machines, instead of putting coins or some sort of card, you use some sort of RFID card or even your cell phone. So cell phones now, they have RFID as well. So you could deduct from your whatever you charge to that card, or I don't know if it's synchronized with your cell phone bill somehow. And casino chips. A few months ago, lots of people were talking about casinos putting RFID on the chips. Not only to know where the money goes or what's happening, what games are being played, but also to possibly track some sort of fraud and stuff like that.
Just a higher denomination only?
Probably.
I've actually destroyed a couple of $1 chips, and there's just a solid metal wheel and nothing else.
I think it is fairly new. I heard this about probably 6 months ago, that they were going to be implementing. But most likely, for the price, he was saying that probably this is for the high denomination chips because it doesn't make sense to put on the cheap ones. And in the future, I don't know when in the future, but home appliances would probably have some sort of RFID reader on it. So when you put your white T-shirt that you bought with the red T-shirt on the washer is going to tell you not to turn it on because it could be not a good thing. Same thing with ovens. You go to the store, you buy one of those delicious, I don't know, how's it called, healthy something, and you put there, it knows how long. You don't need to say 2 minutes and 35 seconds. It knows for how long it's going to cook that thing. Money. So many countries are talking about putting RFID on money. Smart paper. That is actually a cool idea. So for books and business cards, and so the libraries don't have to implement RFID. The RFID is going to come already on the book, and that facilitates for the stores and for libraries and all the tracking that you want to think about. Sports. This I heard a few days ago, that because of the last Super Bowl, the controversy is that they're gonna somehow, and of course they didn't give the details, but they want to use RFID to make sure they don't do the wrong calls, or they fix the wrong calls if possible. And I'm pretty sure people are going to get creative and do more stuff with that. Couldn't think of anything else. So talking a little bit about security, and this is for RFID in general, not any specific type. Encryption, there is encryption, and I'm going to talk a little bit in another slide, but there is mostly two types of encryption that are being used. But there's simple encryption. Why? Because the tag is a tiny thing, and there's overhead. You cannot, talking about the passive tags, okay? There's nowhere to put information there. There's no way to, or it's hard to implement cryptography on that. So the way it does, let's talk about that now. The way it does it is with some sort of hash lock access control. And there are like two types, one that is randomized and the other one is not randomized. So the idea is that this is a one-way function. So the reader identifies itself to the tag, and the tag only sends information to the reader that it's supposed to send information. But again, this is a simple thing, but it's better than nothing. It's just like web. Other problems is that user data, depending on the type of the tag, could be modified. Meaning, if it's a read and write tag, and somebody could change the user information on that tag. This could be fun too, because you could change, I don't know, if you had some sort of tool that would change that on the fly, you could go to a store, look at one DVD that costs $9.99 and get a brand new one, and so you swap the identity of the tags, you swap the products based on the information that is on the tag, and you pay for whatever it's on the tag. No read protection, that's kind of how it was. It was like that until, it depends how it's implemented, let's put it like this. Because if it has that sort of hash function, then the tag is only going to send information to that reader. But usually a tag cannot not awake. So when it's close to a reader, to a transceiver, it's going to awake and try to send information. And also no scanning protection. It's the same idea. So then when I talk scanning, is the reader getting close to the tag. About privacy, you have eavesdropping, as I mentioned in the beginning, could be a little of a problem, especially if you can awake tags from far away and also read the information from those tags. And not only for the customers, but also for some businesses. So if you want to know what your competitors are selling, or how their inventory are doing, how are they selling that type of brand, if they're selling more than you and stuff like that, you could try to get information based on that. It's possible. They already do a great job with customer profiling. So, as I said before, they know most people that, not us, let's put it like this, they have the customer loyalty cards and stuff like that. And everybody knows what these people buy, and they get targeted ads and all that stuff. So this would be maybe a way of improving that. Same thing with to identify a person, and this could be a problem, I don't know, when they implement in all passports, and they could know where you're from and stuff like that based on the information that you don't even know that you're sending out. So this could be a problem, something to maybe think about. Another thing is the hot listing of know kind of who you are, right? So if you got on your backpack a few books about network security and stuff like that, and you go to Interop in a few weeks, and you're walking there, and some guy's going to say, oh, that guy, he likes to talk about encryption, this, and that. And they could come to you and say, hey, you want to hear my story, know what we do, and stuff like that. So another possible thing. Same thing for the other topic. And the old dumpster dive could get an upgrade nowadays with an RFID reader when all the products that you buy have some sort of RFID on it, and the tags are still active or alive with useful information. People could know what you're buying and throwing away. So what are the possible solutions for some of these? There are talks about killing the tag once it leaves the store, meaning after you paid, it removes all the information about that product. So if somebody tries to read that tag, it doesn't say anything useful at all. RSA has a project of creating a blocker tag. What is a blocker tag? You walk with that thing, and that pretty much DOSes all the readers. So when you walk close to a reader and you have a bag full of stuff that has RFID, and you're also carrying that RSA killer tag, it's going to just generate random numbers and send to the reader. So the reader is going to get confused. Lock and use it memory on the tag is another possibility, but on the read-write tags, if you have the right tool to read that and do that, that's useless. And again, talked about encryption and overhead of encryption on RFID tags. So what is used today is the hash lock access control and randomized hash lock access control. Encryption, I think there are ideas to put some sort of encryption on it, but I personally doubt it. Attacks based on the RFID technology. RF dump, it's been out there for a few years. There was a presentation on Black Hat and DEF CON 2 years ago, I think. Really detailed, really good one. Go to the internet and look for it. Totally worth seeing the material. And the tool is out there. Tag swapping, that's what I was saying. When you go to a store and you have RF dump on your PDA, and you have some sort of reader, writer, you can change the information on the fly from one product to another. Same thing with converting products, EPCs. Would be changing information on the tag. And RFID bombs should be changed to RFID mines. That's another thing, right? So if you have information, too much information on a tag that can identify you from being from one place or another, one country or another, and I don't know, they could create some sort of mine that when these type of people, they walk by, the thing can explode and stuff like that. So it could be really dangerous if you don't think about. I think it's important to think about security in all technologies, but this one that is growing so fast could be worse.
Lots of problem with the U.S. passports. We have enough problem with
our soldiers in Iraq right now. Like people could set bombs and say, "Don't go off on this bus until there are 10 Americans here."
Yeah. Not only he was talking about the U.S. passports and in Iraq and stuff like that. Not only the people, but also most of the stuff that, not most, but I bet that the military has lots of stuff that is being RFID tracked. So it's not only people, but also a car, a plane, or anything like that. Now, what are the security concerns for the Wi-Fi tags? Well, it is pretty much the same problems that you have on Wi-Fi with a few new devices in the middle, right? So just like we can also have a rogue radio server for the identification thing for any sort of Wi-Fi network, you could start thinking about having a rogue real-time location server and then have the tag sending somehow, and this doesn't exist. It's just some thoughts that I had, is to send information from the tags to the wrong server, and that rogue server can use that information for whatever purpose it is there for. Also, spoof tags. So if you don't have a Wi-Fi system that protects from spoofing, which most of the vendors out there today have some sort of protection to it, but it's really easy to spoof a MAC address. You could spoof a MAC address of a Wi-Fi tag on your laptop and be running some sort of client that does exactly what a Wi-Fi tag does, and have problems with that. Packet injection. Once you sniffed and you saw the information that the tag sends, you could be generating similar traffic and sending all kinds of packets to the RTLS server. And my creativity stopped there, so think about the rest. Resources about RFID. You have the tool there, RFDump. Some other ones. You can find lots of political privacy stuff in most of them, because people suddenly with RFID, and this is not new at all, like this has been going for a few years, people are really worried about privacy, but just because of RFID, I don't know why they were not before.
Could you leave that up just a little longer, please?
Absolutely. And that's it, by the way. So, any questions at all? I don't know what time is it. I think I'm pretty fast. I have a longer break.
When I had my last child, they had, I guess, a bracelet on my daughter. And they said that you can't use cell phones at the same time. Is that old technology or new technology?
I have no idea.
Apparently the frequencies are the same. I guess my computers too.
Cell phone doesn't work on the same. No, cell phones, they could work. Here they would be 800 megahertz, 1800, and 1900, right?
Depends on which cellular standard you're using.
Yeah, so it's going to depend. But I think here in the U.S. it's what, 19? I don't remember now.
But this doesn't get affected by cell phones.
It shouldn't. Well, if it was 800 megahertz and the cell phone and the tag is 900 megahertz, it's pretty close.
A lot of the old analog cell phones, I don't know if they do anymore, but they operated in the 800-900 megahertz range.
And also you could have any other, the older wireless phones, they were 900 megahertz. But I don't think that was the case. I think it's just one of those things that not to avoid problems just because people don't understand it. They just say, same thing with Wi-Fi. They're like, oh, we don't want to implement Wi-Fi because it's dangerous. But some hospitals are all lit with access points. So that's not the case. Yeah.
Any comment on the supposed RFID virus?
I don't know anything about that. How would that work?
Supposedly the data on the RFID tag caused buffer overflow in the backend system. Then the backend system propagated on the further RFID cards.
Okay, he was saying that if you don't know, if you were like me and didn't know about this, the Trojan pretty much is there's some sort of bad information or evil information on the RFID. Once the reader gets that, it gets propagated. Not only does a buffer overflow on the reader, but also propagates to other tags that would be around or further read by that RFID. Okay. What I would think about the buffer overflow, totally, I don't know what type of information could cause that.
I don't know.
But
from what I have just firm, and it was the information on the RFID affected the backend system.
Okay, affected the backend system. Okay.
It was a SQL injection attack.
Oh, okay.
But it sounded like it was a very specific setup that they did to just
Okay. Yeah, I think it's, again, totally possible. I just was, so if it's a SQL injection to the backend server, it makes more sense because the reader is just a reader. It wouldn't store any information there, I think. Anybody else?
Don't you think the majority of the problem is where you store the data? And if you store the data on RTLS, you're a lot better off than you would be storing it on the tag.
True. That's the reason why I mentioned that a possible problem would be have some sort of rogue RTLS or something like that. And of course, when you also on that point, if you're on the second generation Wi-Fi tags, where you're going to have the wireless system send information back to the RTLS server and not the tag, that connection should be somehow secure as well, from the access point all the way to the RTLS. Nobody else? Break time. Thank you.
All right, so my name is Billy Hoffman. Some of you guys might know me as Acidus. I've spoken at a lot of conferences over the past couple of years on a wide range of topics. Today I'm here to talk to you about covert crawling, which is basically a mechanism of how to use an automated process to crawl a website and gather information without leaving a forensics trail. I tend to talk a lot and really fast. So if you have a question, please feel free to interrupt me. I have fun swag that I brought. I've got some bag from when I spoke at ShmooCon and some, whoa, that would have been bad. Some stuff from Black Hat Federal and stickers and stuff. So if you have a good question, you get swag. If you have a bad question, we ridicule you. That's kind of how it goes. All right, you guys ready? Yeah. All right, cool. So what am I going to talk about? We're going to go through and first start talking about what is the state of web application attacks. We're going to go ahead and talk about how a covert crawler pretty much kind of changes the equations on how attack and defense of web apps works. We're going to talk about the obstacles it took to create a covert crawler. Specifically, how do you make an automated program act like a browser? How do you make an automated program act like a human? And how you throttle one of these things. We're going to talk about how I actually implemented a covert crawler. And it says questions, but like I said, ask me questions the entire time. Okay, so State of the Union. How many people here have ever hacked a web app? How many has ever thrown like a single tick or something into a search field to see if you get a SQL exception or all sorts of fun stuff like that? You know, hacking websites is really easy. I'm sure a lot of you read BugTrack. Like something like 70% of the vulns I've been reading on BugTrack for the last several months have all been web app attacks: SQL injection, cross-site scripting, misplaced trust, improperly created SSL connections, all sorts of nasty stuff. They are laughably common to find. I found a cross-site scripting vulnerability in weather.com this morning when I was trying to figure out what to wear. So it's crazy. They're all over the place. People are hacking websites because it's in the news. There was this awesome attack on MySpace back in October. Somebody actually wrote a cross-site scripting virus, which used Java code and Ajax to propagate. There's someone here who was doing cross-site scripting stuff? Ooh. So this was an awesome virus. It used Ajax to actually propagate itself and infect more cross-site or more of MySpace. I actually gave a presentation at Black Hat Federal about web app worms. And so if you're interested in that, come talk to me afterwards. People are hacking websites because they can make money. Attacking a web app gives you the same payload and the same take as, doing, say, a layer 3 or a layer 4 attack. You're trying to, gain access to systems you normally don't have access to grab passwords, credit card data, confidential information, identity theft. Anything you want to do, you get access to the information through a web app just as easily as you can get access through, a anonymous account on FTP. So administrators are patching some of the holes, pretty much the PHP whatever the hell exploit of the week. Because, seriously, I love open source, I use open source, but God bless SourceForge and all these PHP projects because they completely keep my company in business. So, but that's why I come and I talk to you guys about how to actually write secured web applications. So it's a give and a take. A lot of times people rely on their logs if and when they get attacked. They're like, oh crap, somebody totally just dumped my entire SQL database out. Let me go to my logs and see who was connecting to me a lot. Normally they contact the IP owner, which is almost always an open proxy that shouldn't have been opened in the first place. And then the two people go after the attacker with limited success. So whether you're actually sneaking a web app attack by an IDS or an IPS is debatable. There's some pretty cool attacks. Dan Kaminsky actually had a really neat timing attack with IP fragments so that an IDS would see a regular, HTTP get, index.html, and the web server saw, get SQL injection attack. So, there are ways around IDSs, but the point I want to try to attack here is that attacks just don't happen out of thin air. People recon sites ahead of time. They try to say, I want to attack this bank. Let me start analyzing and let me start pounding on this bank a little bit, do some reconnaissance, and see if I want to actually attack them. And a lot of times, forensic people will tell you it's this reconnaissance they're able to see in the logs. And that's how they're able to track people, because people will almost always launch attacks through proxies, compromised machines, botnets, open access points. But almost always,